Good morning or afternoon, people, and thanks again for joining us. Like always, we're going to begin from now on with a little disclaimer. You've probably seen this standard disclaimer, but it's just kind of necessary that I go through this and every time we do a webinar. So just be aware that anything that you see here today is for educational purposes only, and we're not making any sort of buy or sell recommendations for any particular market or instrument. And in fact, these trading systems and trading signals that we're putting together as well, aren't necessarily meant to be tradable systems. They're just, except for maybe one that we're looking at that's pretty nice. But I have to say this on an official basis that if you take what you see here today and actually trade with it, you do so at your own risk. And naturally, if you have your own trading account, that you assume the risks associated with trading and fully understand what risks you are putting up with real money when you're actually doing live trading. And just sort of as a personal note, obviously, if you're going to try some of the stuff, I'd highly recommend just doing stuff in sim for as long as you can before trading live with it. So now that we got that out of the way, today's topic, we're going to be switching up the format of these webinars a little bit, these workshops, meaning that we're just going to sort of theme them from now on so that we have something prepared and a useful tidbit of information that I think every one of you could take home and learn a little bit more about BloodHound today. But as always, your questions take precedence. So if you brought a mic or if you type in a question, we'll stop and we'll answer them. That's the primary goal here, is to answer your questions. So they don't necessarily have to be even on topic. You can ask questions of any sort, really. This is an open format, but if there aren't any questions, we'll forge ahead and do some of this prepared material. And when I say prepared, I mean it's just we just have a theme here, and again, this isn't necessarily a canned presentation. Everything is still very much a workshop format and done almost on the fly. So today we are going to look at different ways to discover the trend using BloodHound, looking at the indicator slope, analyzing that, seeing these on higher time frames as well, which is typically what a lot of traders that we find do is they look at the higher time frames to get the bird's eye view of what's going on, and any one of these techniques can be applied on higher time frames with BloodHound. Checking the price to see if it's above or below a certain moving average, checking the regression channel, that's the linear regression channel, checking the slope of that, and Zach's got a special treat with the ADXVMA indicator that he's found off Big Mike's, which may actually be of interest to you guys. So why don't we, okay, so I'm going to pass over to Zach, and actually the first question has just popped up. Gaber asks, can you show an example of your nesting button? What does the nesting button do? So why don't we start off with that? So let me just pass the basically the mic over to Zach.
All right, Gabor. Yeah, I'll pull that up for you first. So let me get my screen projecting here. And all right, I believe you guys can see my screen now. All right, so let me get started by, you can see that I have BloodHound on my chart already, the green bars here. And we can see that up top here, the buttons up here do not have a template. So we're going to start off by giving BloodHound a template name, something to work with. So I'm going to bring up the indicator window, and I like to take a shortcut by just double-clicking on BloodHound. And that will bring up the NinjaTrader indicator window. And you can see I already have BloodHound is selected here. And then up top on the template, it's unnamed, and so I want to give it a name. right, so because these we do save these templates and post them up on the website. So I'm going to use a previous template name. So you'll find this one under the workshop here. And just put today's date on there. And today is the 13th. Lucky 13. Alright, so I have a name here for the template, and I'm going to click OK. Now, just for those of you who are new, this is what we call setup mode. So when we go into the template window from the indicator window, this is what we call setup mode. And what's unique about setup mode is it has this chart button, so you can add secondary time frames. So we can see up here I have a 5 range chart and a 15 range chart. So I'm going to use this chart button to add a 5 or a 15 range chart to my template. Alright, there we go. So now that I have the secondary time frame, I'm going to close this up and work in what we call real-time mode. So this button up here, now we can see it displays the name of the template that I just created. So I can click on the button, and that brings up what we call real-time mode. And it's called real-time mode because whenever I make changes inside this window, BloodHound will show those changes in real time on the chart. It will update its output. Alright, so Gabor, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, wants to show how to use nesting. So let me just use the simple slope solver and add that on there. And what I'll do is I'll nest the EMA within itself. So I'll create like a triple EMA. So if I scroll down to the E's, go to the EMA, if I can double click on the EMA, you can see it dropped it down here. Now it's still selected, so I can use the nest input, and we can see that the EMA is now nested into the EMA. So I can select the EMA again, and I can nest it in there again. So now here we can see we have the data from the EMA 14 being fed into the next EMA 14, which is then being fed into the next EMA 14. So what that's creating a triple nested EMA. And so that's what that is for. So theoretically, NinjaTrader allows you to take any indicator output and nest it or feed it as the data input into another indicator. So this is a fairly common use. I could do something unique and crazy, like I could take the EMA and then I could feed the zero lag EMA into that, and scroll up here to the SMA. Oh, I double clicked on it. So I'm going to start over. So I have the SMA, and I could take the zero lag EMA, nest that in there, and then I could go find the HMA and nest that into there. So you can see I have the zero lag EMA being fed into the HMA, being fed into the SMA. So who knows what that would create, but it's possible. So, all right, I hope that answers your question there, Gabor. So I will I'm going to cancel out of this and continue on. So today's theme is, to show you various ways to determine trend direction. And so I'm going to start off with some simple and build upon it and get become more complex. So I'm going to start with the white indicator on my chart, which is the 55 EMA. And so we'll just look at that for now. Alright, so I'm going to go to the EMA. Change the period to 55. Click OK, and we can see the output changed. And so the output is matching the slope of the EMA. So when the slope is rising, BloodHound's output is +1, and when the slope is falling, the output is a -1. And we can see here we had like a quick little switch on the slope of that EMA, and so we had a short output on BloodHound. Let me kind of show you some of the advanced features of this particular solver. First, let me name it. I always like to name my solvers. That way I know what indicators are being fed into them. Now we have some parameters here. We have the minimum slope and maximum slope. And what that allows us to do is control the various ways of how we look at the slope. So if I take the maximum slope and I set it to I'm going to start with 0.2 ticks, we can see here that the output of BloodHound begins to diminish as the slope flattens out. So in other words, the slope here is less than 0.2 ticks of slope. And so what that does is that will allow you to kind of filter out flat areas. So if you're building a system, where you need a steep slope on your moving average, or whatever other indicator you might be using, you can use this as a filter to determine how strong price is moving in one direction or another. So like if I take this out and go 1 tick, that's going to filter out a lot. So yeah, there. So you can see that the slope now has to be 1 tick or greater. In other words, what that 1 tick means is that for every bar that you're moving along the x-axis, the slope is falling by 1 tick of price value from bar to bar. So that's the technical answer for you guys. All right. So let me. I have a lot to go through, so I'm going to kind of speed through these easier ones. We will post this up on the website, and there are training videos that demonstrate how to use this as well. All right, the next one that I'm going to demonstrate is looking at price being above or below your moving average. So, another filter, kind of a permissive that some traders use is, they're looking at price and they're seeing if it's above a moving average or below a moving average. So that's what we're going to look at next. So I'm going to, once again, I'm going to use the EMA 55, the white line, and I'm going to show you how to determine whether the price is above it or below it. I'm going to turn this solver off. So the solver we want to use is the comparison, right? So we're comparing price to the EMA. Let me add that on here. And I'm going to name it. So I'll name it price to EMA. Alright, so with this solver, because it's a comparison solver, we have two inputs that we're using for the comparison. So we have indicator A and indicator B. So this is where we set up what values we're comparing. So indicator A is going to be our price. So I'm going to set the type. I'm going to change it from indicator, and I'm going to change it to the closing price. And then indicator B is going to be the EMA 55. So I'm going to change that to the EMA. Alright, so now when we take a look, we can see that whenever the closing price is above the EMA, BloodHound gives us a long on the output. And whenever it's below the EMA, it gives us a short output. And just like the slope solver, there are some settings here that allows us to kind of adjust the comparison. So we have a large amount and a small amount. So if I take the large amount and I adjust it to, let me use something extreme, something that's easy to see on the chart. I'm going to use 10 ticks. And what I also, I'm going to leave the small amount to 0 ticks. So what I need to do is the small amount setting here on the output, I need to set that to 0. And the same with this one down here, set it to 0. And so now we can see that whenever the closing price is above the EMA greater than 10 ticks, we get an output of 1 from BloodHound. And we can see that as the closing price moves up away from the EMA, we can see the output of BloodHound gets greater and greater, is moving up. And then as price comes down towards the EMA, we can see the output of BloodHound begins to diminish as price gets closer to the EMA. And then right here where it reverses, we can see the output of BloodHound reverses as well. So it's a simple way of looking at this. So this kind of allows you to create some filters or a buffer. So if I set this to 20 ticks, then we can see now price has to be 20 ticks away from the EMA, providing a pretty good buffer, or at least demonstrating, that price definitely has moved away from our moving average. All right, another, kind of keep it in line with this, I have the TC trending. This red and blue line is called the TC trending TSF indicator. It's a custom indicator that if you Google it, I think you can find it if you Google it. It might be up on Big Mike's, but this indicator is copyrighted, but the company who wrote it did give it away for free. I've had this for many years now, so it's been a while since, and I don't remember the company who wrote it, but hopefully if you Google it, hopefully you should be able to find it. It's a pretty neat indicator. So here's the name of it right up here, TC Trending TSF. And let me pause for a moment. I see Randy has a question. So when choosing which indicator should represent which input, as a best practice to always say where is indicator A versus indicator B. Oh, okay, Randy, I think I am understanding your question. So I think it's in regards to the comparison solver. So I think you're asking about best practices as to determining what should go into the indicator A section versus what should be going into the indicator B section. Generally, the way I think of it is I think of, what is the primary data that I'm looking at first. And so in this case, I think of the price as being the primary. I'm always looking to know where price is in relationship to the EMA. So I consider A, or the price being indicator A, being the primary. And it's more has to do with how I'm analyzing it in my head, what condition I'm looking at. So if I'm looking at price first, I'm saying, okay, where is price in relationship to the EMA? And so I'll put price in indicator A. Now if I'm comparing an indicator or a moving average to a moving average, like if I'm more interested in knowing where this TC trending TSF is in relationship to the EMA, then I would put the TC trending TSF up on top. So I guess another way to think about it is usually the faster moving data, whether that be price or a moving average or something, the faster moving one generally goes up in indicator A. So I hope that kind of answers your question. And the reason why, I guess the reason why is because when I'm thinking, if I'm thinking, where is price in relationship to the EMA, that has to do with how these output settings are. Because you can see what it's doing is it's comparing A being greater than B. And so that's how I'm thinking about it in my mind. Is price above the EMA, price being A, the EMA being B, is price above B or is price below B? And so then when I look at these relationship settings here, I understand it in my head better. All right, so Randy has another question here. So so whatever works for you. Yeah, exactly, Randy. It's just if you ask the question the other way. Yeah, right. So yeah, I mean, I could switch these around. I could put the price down here and put the EMA up here, and then my logic, switches around, and so instead of A being greater than B, A would be less than B, and I would just have to switch. I would just have to switch my output. So set this to 0, and I'd have to set that to 1. So, all right. So let me pick up here. So we were looking at the TC trending TSF. And so kind of you can see that this indicator changes colors, and it's not just based on the slope of the indicator. There's actually some conditions involved here. So for example, you can see right here, you can kind of see, let me stretch this chart out. We can see that even though the indicator is sloping down, it's still blue. And so the color change is based on two conditions. In order for it to change blue, price has to be above the line, and the line has to start sloping up. So at this particular point, this moving average, the line started sloping up, it started pointing up, and price was above it. And so even though this the line started pointing down, price was still above it, so it didn't change colors. Let me see if I can find some other examples here. Yeah, so here's kind of another example, this point right in here. So if I stretch this way out, there we can see just for one bar, price was below the moving average, and the moving average pointed down for at least one bar, which allowed it to change colors. And then even though the bar or the moving average started sloping up, price was still below it, so it didn't change colors. And so right here we can see price broke above the line and the line started sloping up, and then that's when it changed colors. And so I'm going to show you kind of how you can implement these same conditions for any kind of moving average. But first let me I'm going to kind of do some experimenting with this moving average for you. Yes, so back to this indicator. So this indicator also has a unique output that you can't see on the chart, but BloodHound can read it. So BloodHound can actually read when this indicator changes color, because the author who wrote it put in a hidden bool series that can be read by BloodHound. Or if you're a coder and you can write your own code, you can read that as well. And so in order to read this, the solver that works best for that is the threshold solver. So let me rename this. And I'll change my indicator. Alright, so with the indicator selected, here are the plots, and you can see this has a bool series. So if I select this bool series, bool is short for Boolean, which means true or false for you non-programmers. And with a bool series, true or false in programming language is, a 1 equals true and a 0 equals false. So for longs, I'm going to set so when that bool series is true, that means that the line turned blue. So, and what that's trying to tell us is that we're good for, it looks like price is going to begin to move up, and that the slope of the indicator is going to start sloping up. So that would be a long situation. So we'll change that to 1, and then the shorts is going to be the false condition. So I'll set that. So I'm going to set B to 1, B being 0, and we turn off the comparison solver. And so now we can see BloodHound's output is matching the color change. So this is kind of a fun indicator to play with, this TC trending TSF, just to kind of expand upon that, that is actually based upon the TSF indicator which comes with NinjaTrader. So even if you don't have the TC trending, you do have the TSF indicator. Where'd it go? Oh. There it is. Yeah. So this custom indicator that changes colors, it's based off of this indicator with the various conditions of, you know, what direction the line is sloping in and whether price is above or below it. So TSF is the time series forecast indicator. So let me, I'll show you how you can build the same indicator using BloodHound. Alright, so the first thing we're going to look at is the slope. Alright, so when this indicator changes colors, it has two conditions it's looking for. It's looking for the slope, and it's looking whether price is above or below the line. Alright, so let me change the indicator. And I need to match up the periods here. So let me pull up this indicator and look at that. Alright, so it's using 3 and 50. Let me go back here. Alright, so we have 3, we need to change that to 50. Alright, so that's one condition met. The next one is whether price is above or below the line. So let's add another. Actually, I can just take this comparison and I can copy it down and change the name on it. And I'll change my indicator. Change the period. And I need to reset the large amount. And I'm going to set my outputs back to default settings. There. Yeah, and so there we go. Essentially, we have the two conditions, and we can see that only when both conditions are met perfectly, we're getting a full output on BloodHound. So we can see that even though so one of the conditions is met, and so the output is weakened a little bit on BloodHound. So that could that could show us that. Hey, even though we got a change in direction on the indicator, if price begins to move back up and the slope, you can see the slope began to rise right there. So that could be a warning to our system that there's a little bit of weakness in these two conditions. So that's kind of what BloodHound is apt to do, is with the variable output, it begins to tell you whether your signals are weakening. All right, so let's move on. I'm going to move on to the regression channel slope. I'm going to turn all my solvers off, And I'm going to add another slope solver here. And so this one is going to be the regression channel. Now, BloodHound, because it's the linear regression channel, and you know, the calculations on it are a lot different than a moving average. So we have built that into BloodHound, into the pull-down menu here. So we have the linear regression channel. And the default setting is 40, and so, and I have the regression channel on the chart here, so we can compare. BloodHound's output to the actual slope of the linear regression channel. So let me. There. For some reason, this indicator doesn't have a zero line marker, so I'm going to draw one on here. There we go. And, oh, you know what? All right, this indicator down here is set to 50, but in BloodHound it's defaulted to 40. So let me change this to 50 so they match up. There we go. All right, so when the slope, we can see here now that when the slope turns negative and it crosses below the zero, then BloodHound's output changes. There we go. So when the slope is positive and it crosses the zero line, then BloodHound output is positive. And let me add for visual, let me add a linear regression channel indicator on here. So this one is available on Big Mike's, the ANA regression channel. And the reason why we like using this versus the one built in that comes with NinjaTrader is that this ANA one works historically. All right, the period's 50, and all right, so obviously we can see by just looking at the channel here that it's in a positive slope. And as we scroll back, we can begin to see it's flattening out, and we can see that the value of the slope indicator is getting closer and closer to zero. So essentially when it's zero, that means it's flat. There is no slope. And then right at this point, it's kind of hard to tell, but the slope of the indicator essentially is negative now. Now you can see it a little bit better. You can see the channel sloping down. So as we scroll back, now the channel is sloping up. There we go. That's a little easier to see. Alright, so this regression channel is just another example, another way to kind of look at the trend of price, whether the trend is down or up at the moment. Alright, so next I'm going to move on and use this higher time frame over here. So I have the 55 EMA on this chart as well, the white line. And so on this chart, I'm going to show how to determine whether well, first, first I'm going to look at the slope, and then we'll look at whether price is above or below the EMA. Let me bring up the BloodHound window. Okay. This is going to be really quick and easy. So I can take the 55 EMA slope I have on here, and I can move it down, and just by one click of the button it dropped it down over onto this other chart. And so let me change my crosshairs to global. There. And oh, I have, that's right, I have, remember, I think I left it with requiring a 20 tick difference. And so that's why we have this blank area here. So let me go take that off. And, oh, okay, the slope, that's right, we're looking at the slope. So 0 ticks. Let me change that slope to 0 ticks. Alright, so looking at the slope, if I zoom this in, we can see there's a slight positive slope on the EMA for just one bar, and that's what's showing up on the 5 range chart. That green area for just 4 bars is just showing this positive slope. So if I scroll back, and we can see right here where, yeah, right there we can see the slope changes from positive to negative. And let's see, how far do we have to scroll back? There we go. And so now we can see on the 15 range chart the slope is pointing down all the way over to this point. Alright, so next let's look at price comparison to the EMA. And so I can take this solver and move it down and turn it on, and let me take out this filter here. Alright, so here we can see yep, price just broke above the EMA at this point. And we have a small area where prices popped above the EMA on the 15 range chart. And then we'll have to scroll way over here. And there, yep. Now we can see on the 15 range chart, price is above this whole point here. So let me kind of make this a little more complicated. Add a little complexity. Let's take a look at, price being above the EMA on both charts. So I can take this solver, I can copy it, and I'll grab one of them and I'll move it up to the other chart. So now we have the same comparison on both charts. And there we have it. So we can see right on these 2 bars where BloodHound is not painting the background, right? There's the black background versus the red. And we can see that on the 15 range chart, price is well below the EMA. But on the 5 range chart, we can see price just broke above the EMA for that one bar, and the same over here. And so the output, what the output is showing us is that we have, we have 0.5 on the positive and 0.5 on the negative. So where that's coming from is the 0.5 on the negative is coming from the 15 range chart, where price is below the EMA. And then on this 5 range chart, where price is above the EMA, that's where we're getting the positive 0.5 on the on BloodHound's output. And the same for all of these bars over here. So as price moves above the EMA, we get a 0.5 on the positive for BloodHound's output, and then we get a negative 0.5 coming from the 15 range chart, where price is well below the EMA. All right, let's see what kind of other let's see. Well, I have the linear regression channel slope over here on the 15 range chart as well, so I can show that to you. So I can grab this solver and move it down to see the other chart. And I should draw another 0 line on this indicator. Alright. And so if we watch the crosshairs, we can see that right about here is where the linear regression channel begins to turn negative on the slope on the 15 range chart. So let me move my cursor over here. There we go. We can see, yep. Right there is where the output on BloodHound changes, is right when the slope of the linear regression channel goes from negative to positive. Okay, now let's move on to the ADXVMA. I'm going to I'm going to minimize this down, minimize this down. So if you want to find this indicator, for those of you who have not been on big mics, I would highly encourage it. It's a great site. There's lots of indicators on there, but best of all, there's lots of forums and people discussing, various ways of how to use an indicator. There's lots of people talking about various trading systems up there. It's a really great site. And I would highly recommend becoming a member on that site, a paid member that'll give you access to more areas on the website. It's well worth the money. It's just a one-time donation, and yeah, it's well worth the money. And so if you go to the download section and go into the NinjaTrader section, and you can do a search for the ADXVMA indicator, and there's several versions up there. Yeah, if you want to find this particular one, on the description of the indicator, you'll see it'll say version 1.5.2, and that's this particular version. Alright, let me stop for a moment. I see Phil and Randy posed a couple of questions. So, alright, so yeah, Phil's asking a really good question here. I was kind of debating if I should explain this further, but so I will. So Phil's question is, let me close up the this indicator window, and let me expand this indicator here. All right. So Phil's question is the slope of the regression channel when above 0 and sloping up, implying that the positive slope is increasing in steepness and vice versa for the downside? Exactly, Phil. Right. Actually, kind of, yeah, with this indicator, this linear regression slope indicators, it's showing you the slope at that particular point. So when the line is increasing, what that's saying is that the steepness of the regression channel here is getting steeper and steeper. So let me put some markers on the chart. So we're going to look at these 2 points right here. Right, so we're going to be looking at the regression channel here. So let me move it to this point. So, we're kind of at a low point for this indicator. And so look at the steepness of the regression channel. It has a pretty good positive slope on it. And so now as we step forward, you'll see as the line increases of the indicator, you'll see the steepness of the regression channel gets steeper. All right, so what that's saying, so what this indicator down here is saying is that the slope is increasing. And so you'll see the steepness of this indicator also increasing. And we can see it's just getting steeper and steeper and steeper. Right? And then, so I marked the high point, and so now the steepness of this channel is going to begin to flatten out. It's going to begin to fall. Right? So yeah, so we can see it's not nearly as steep now. And so right, so as long as this line is above the 0 line, as long as the indicator line is above the 0 line, that's telling us that the regression channel up here is pointing up. It's an up positive direction as long as this indicator line is above 0. And then when it's below 0, it's just a measurement of how steep the indicator is pointing down. Alright, so Randy. Well, I guess it looks like Randy's is making a comment. Loves the ability to reflect higher time frame states on the lower time frame chart. Yes, we agree, Randy. Alright. Big Mike's site is a fantastic resource. Yeah, thank you, Randy. I take it you are an elite member. Yep, I am as well. It's thank you. I was trying to remember the name to call it, and that's elite membership. So for those of you who are just free members, I would recommend paying the one-time donation, quote, donation fee, it's well worth the money for all the extra resources available on the website. So. All right, so I'm going to jump back to looking at the ADX indicator here. Right, I'm going to tone down some of the other moving averages on here. You can see there's all kinds of settings in here, and I am not an expert on this indicator, but if you'd like to become an expert on this indicator, I remember there being several forums that were just dedicated to this indicator alone. Various people wanting to put improvements into the indicator, but also kind of explaining various uses on how to use it. So, but for my purposes here today, I just want to kind of demonstrate, on how you can use this to filter out chop in the market. So, here's one good situation. We can see we're kind of range bound in here. And for the most part, this indicator was able to determine that. And range bars may not be the best bar type that works with this indicator. You might try other bar types and see what works best with this indicator here. Alright, so let's look into this indicator and see what kind of, it has various different outputs that BloodHound can analyze. Alright, so I'm going to choose the slope solver again. It's kind of that is the theme of this today's workshop. So, and I'm going to plug the ADX into it. Alright, so down here we can see there's several plots going on. So it looks like, so we have a rising, a falling, and a neutral plot. So I have a feeling that this is probably, these plots are probably a leftover from NinjaTrader 6.5, where if you wanted to change the color of your indicator, you had to implement a different plot. You had to create a new plot for every color that you wanted to implement. So this is probably a leftover. So I imagine that if we only use the rising plot, like right here, we're only going to, BloodHound's only going to see values when the indicator is blue. So let's test that out. And yep, that appears to be the case. So even though the indicator is sloping down, BloodHound is not being fed any kind of data on that indicator. So that's why there's no short output on BloodHound here. Whereas, if I select the TSF, we can see that BloodHound here puts a short when the indicator is sloping down. So all right, let me go back into the indicator window. Oh, I have the wrong one selected. Yeah. Let me name this indicator ADXVMA. There we go. And as you might guess, if I select the neutral, well, we get nothing. And why is that? So this is kind of a trick question. So the reason why there's no plot is because a neutral slope of 0 means there is no slope, so there's no output on BloodHound. You know, no slope of the indicator, so no output on BloodHound. But we can, if we set this to 1, and let's see, less than minimum. Oh, there it is. Oops. Okay. I was looking in the wrong spot. Let me set this back to default. Settings. So there he goes. There's a value at slope 0. Set that to 1. And, oh, helps if you turn the solver on. Okay. And, all right. Now, because the slope is 0, you know, there's no trend direction, and so, you know, so that could be good for a long or a short. You know, so BloodHound gives you an output in both directions, both long and short, in this situation. And it looks like right on the particular bar where the flat slope is detected, it looks like there's a slight reversal detected on that one particular bar. I'm not sure if that's actually coming from the indicator or if BloodHound is trying to interpolate something. But we can see when the moving average is, when the ADX is, I shouldn't call this the ADX because it's not the ADX. So when this moving average, ADXVMA, is sloping up and then goes flat, we can see that BloodHound is giving us a short signal right there. And then on the next flat bar, we have both directions. And when the ADX moving average is sloping down and goes flat, BloodHound is giving us a long signal on the first bar. All right. Okay, let's go in and take a look at some of the other plots available. Now this this data series main, I played with this earlier, so I know that this plot that we can see now that match. Oh, let me turn off the 0 slope setting. Okay. So this is probably what most of us would want to be using in our system. Is to get a positive output from BloodHound when the indicator is sloping up, is rising, no output when it detects kind of a chop zone, and then a down slope, obviously, when the indicator is sloping down. Pardon me while I take a drink here. All right. And I'm sure you guys probably noticed that this indicator had a signal on it. It has a signal plot. Yeah, generally a signal plot is best used with the threshold solver. Because generally signals are usually just like a positive 1 or a negative 1 is usually what most developers build into a signal. So let me copy or add the threshold solver. And name it. Alright, change the indicator, and let's select a signal here. And generally I will start with like 0.1 and set this to negative 0.1. Set my outputs to match. Well, it looks like the signal is just matching the slope. Alright, well, let me take a look. I'm going to turn the slope solver back on and change the plot. Let's see what happens. Okay, that makes sense. So I think what the signal is doing is, so we can see that when we're using the slope solver, basically that signal plot is probably outputting a 0, and then as soon as it outputs the positive values, it could be outputting 1 or something like that. Then on that particular bar where it changes from 0 to the positive value, we get a positive slope for that one bar. But then the output of that signal plot is the same value as long as the indicator is rising, and so the slope is flat, right? So if you're outputting the same value, say like if that signal, let me just show you again. So if this data series out, this signal is putting out a 1 when the indicator is blue or positive, and a negative 1 when it's red, then the slope never changes, right? So it's it's outputting 1, and so the slope is essentially flat if it's 1 this whole time. The only time it changes is when it's when we have the yellow dots, where the output for the signal is most likely going to be 0, and then it changes to 1, and so all of a sudden the slope changes positive for that one bar. And if the next bar is 1, well, that's a flat slope. So I can use the threshold solver to kind of play around and figure out what the output is. I can go to 2. Yeah, so if I put 2 in here, we can see the output is reduced to 0.5. So BloodHound is telling us that the output from the signal plot is half of 2. Yeah, so it's outputting 1. And this is probably outputting negative 1. Right? Yep. Okay. Well, that essentially kind of wraps it up. That's what I had planned for you guys today, and it's just been over an hour. So if you guys have any more questions, or if you guys have some examples you would like me to show you how to do, it doesn't have to be related to today's theme. These are training workshops, you know, and we're really here to answer your questions first, whatever they may be, as Jeremy had explained in the beginning. So I see, okay, yeah, so there's some more questions on here. Let me go through these. So Randy's asking, what is lacking with other swing indicators that prompted you to create your own swing indicator, SI swings? Actually, Randy, we didn't create this. This was a slightly modified indicator from a indicator that's available on big mics. I don't remember the original name, but the author is Dorshand, and so you'll see. Let's see. One of these solvers, I think it's, let's see, where is it? Yeah, down here. So it's right. It's built into the solver name. So the original author of this swing trend is his last name was Dorshand, and so we wanted to give him credit, and he allowed us to use his code, which he posted for free up on Big Mics. So this is actually his indicator. I'm sure Jeremy will probably pipe in here and tell us what the original indicator name was. I think I do have it on my list.
Yeah, it's
but what we
Zach.
did,
It's the price action swing indicator. Price action swing.
Yes, thank you. That's what it is. Yep. There we go. The price action swing, and this one is probably, yeah, this one is probably his price action swing high lows. And so what we did is we kind of, we took the core logic and just kind of simplified it a little bit for BloodHound, so it doesn't have all the various plots. And the beauty of these indicators is Dorshand actually has like built in if I remember correctly, a GAN algorithm into it, so it's not just simply using just the swing indicator. It's also, I think, in combination with a GAN type formula, so it also mixes in price movement into the calculation as to when it determines a high or a low point is determined. So it's a little smarter than just the regular swing indicator. All right, let's let me move on to some other questions here. Madi's asking if there's a newer version of the ADXVMA. I don't know, Madi. I took a quick look up on Big Mics last night, and there was too many of them out there for me to kind of look through. I think the one I have is the latest one that has all these fancy coloring options and alert signals and stuff like that. There are some simpler ones up there, I think are newer, that probably do have just one plot, but I didn't have time to download them all and test them all. All right, just reading through some of these other questions, folks. Oh, okay. Sorry, Tom, I did overlook your question. So Tom was asking, how are we doing with other exotic bars such as RJ's, Renko? Let's see. I'm not sure what the time frame is on that. The particular issue, well, the one underlying issue is that with these custom bar types, each time somebody comes out with one, most likely BloodHound is going to have to be updated to know exactly what input is needed, because NinjaTrader doesn't feed that back to us, in an easy way. It all has to be custom coded.
Is actually, if you don't mind, I can sort of speak to that that limitation.
You can answer that much better than I can.
Sure. Yeah. So essentially, so again, Tom's question is regarding custom bar types. And those of you that have downloaded, say, a custom chart and then put on your system, and wondering if BloodHound can include those and work with that. So the answer is it can, in terms of you can put BloodHound onto a custom bar type, a custom chart. That's no problem. Where we get into a little trouble is when you try to add a custom bar type within the BloodHound template. Really the only reason why we can't do that is just this is limitation with NinjaTrader not allowing us to programmatically add these custom bar types properly. So they do show up in the drop down, but the problem is they will not behave as expected. And again, that's just a limitation. There just simply isn't an API call from NinjaTrader that allows us to instantiate these custom bar types within BloodHound. They just did not make it possible. So as soon as they do make it possible, and we've been talking with them and asked them, when they could get this sort of done, but as soon as they make it possible, we'll absolutely jump on it and support it and change BloodHound so that it makes it, it can use these custom bar types. But again, that's unfortunately nothing we can control in terms of our time frame. It's because it is a limitation imposed to us from NinjaTrader.
You can see that on one of these custom line break charts, it has both input fields that are necessary, but on this other one, for some reason it doesn't. It only has this one input. So that's kind of the issue with it. So if you do, so if it does seem to work, that there's no guarantee that it's going to feed you the right data. I definitely do lots and lots of back testing, to make sure that things are accurate before you trust it. And it may not, and it may stop working at any point. So. All right, let me look through some of these other questions. Bob, yes, Bob was asking the name of that indicator for the price action swing. So it is these guys right here. I think there's 3 of them up there on Big Mike's. And they all do slightly different things. Marty's asking market condition solver. Well, I'm not sure what your question is, but it looks like Jeremy tried to answer it.
Yeah, Marty, it's actually running a debug version, and that's why it's showing up. It shouldn't really be there. Actually, it doesn't exist in the release version. And again, market condition is just basically a little thing we were fooling around with maybe months ago. and it's something we're not even sure if we're going to be including it in the future or not. But I guess for next time, Zach, we'll just endeavor to show a version that you guys are using, so that we're not showing sort of debug or internal stuff. So sorry about that. Sorry for that confusion.
Yeah, Amadi, I'm sure you can appreciate that. If we ever do get that going, that would be the goose that lays the golden eggs. So. All right, Randy, thanks for the compliment. Yes, Bob, yes, one of the price action swings does have a built-in ABC tool, and it also draws the Fibonacci chart object on the chart as well. So it's a really neat tool. No, thanks for letting us know, Bob. So Bob is saying that I guess the price action swing indicator got updated today, and so an email notice went out. So yeah, you can subscribe to indicators. So if you download an indicator, you can subscribe to it, and when the author updates it, you'll get sent an email notification of that update. All right. Well, it looks like that's it for the questions. Oh, Alfred, there we go. Now looks like Alfred's got a nice big one for me. All right. So it says yesterday during NT strategy automation webinar, I was told that NT does not allow a mathematical input parameter as well as for trailing stops. So Alfred, I take it you were watching one of NinjaTrader's free training webinars, the automated strategy one. And yeah, so right, so I have not, as far as I know, yeah, NinjaTrader doesn't have any type of mathematical input into their indicators or anything. I mean, they could write an indicator to do that, but I think they're allowing their third-party vendors to do that.
And actually, Zach, maybe I'll speak to that a little bit, Alfred. So the NinjaTrader Strategy ATM, which I assume is the one you're talking about, again, that's designed to handle trade positions. BloodHound is not a trade manager in terms of it doesn't manage your stops. You can, however, if you have that a little bit of coding knowledge, use it to manage your stops. And then use the BloodHound templates, to plug in maybe just some scripting code that would let you change stops kind of where you like them, and use BloodHound to do that. But just to preface that, we're actually working on a separate product called Falcon, which is going to be that, and it's going to actually take in basically allow you to manage stops using pretty much anything you can think of, including basing your stops off indicators, maybe some math formula of an indicator, maybe something that's happening on a higher time frame, because it's going to actually use BloodHound's logic engine to drive that technology. So if you can sort of imagine almost anything you can do in BloodHound, you can sort of apply to the way you manage your stops. And so you can trigger stops at certain, do certain things at certain times and under certain conditions. And again, that's the second product that we're working on called Falcon. which unfortunately we don't have a time frame for yet. But the idea is we want to definitely take the automated trading to the next level and come out with something that's a lot more sophisticated than the NinjaTrader ATM. So that's sort of the next step. But BloodHound again is not a trade manager. It's a signal engine. I guess we're debating to figure out again finding a good name for BloodHound. And last week's webinar we sort of asked a question out there like, what would you call this thing? And the vast majority of you guys said it makes sense to call it a visual programming tool. Perhaps there's maybe a shorter name that's easier to describe it, but basically BloodHound will let you essentially program the logic to take these trades and to determine trend, to determine signals, and determine and filter signals. So again, it's not a trade manager. It's basically like a full-blown custom indicator, if you will.
Just to kind of explain how NinjaTrader works, there's two different classes in NinjaTrader, and it's also the same for TradeStation and multi-charts, where you have an indicator class that essentially performs mathematical and conditional, such as like greater than, equal, not equal type conditions based on price. And then the other class is the strategy class, and only the strategy class can actually manage your trade. In other words, the strategy class is the only class that can place your stops, place your entries, move your stops, move your profit targets. None of the code with none of the indicators or the code from the indicator class can manage your trade. So indicators cannot move your stops around. And so as you see, BloodHound is in this indicator class. And so therefore it cannot manage your trades for you. It can't manage your stops. So Falcon will be in the strategy class. So I hope that clarifies things a little bit for you, Alfred. All right. Well, I guess with that, we'll wrap up today's training session. And yeah, I guess just to reiterate for some of you who made it to Noel's trading room, we are working on setting up another room with him as soon as we can, and of course we'll let you know by email. And for next week's theme, next week's theme will be how to determine strength and weakness by reading your indicators. All right, so we're going to be looking at the change in slope solver, the inflection solver, the bar length solver, and just some of the other solvers, and kind of how to try and read some of the strength of price movements.
And hopefully next time I'll be a little sharper with the emails. I've been a little sloppy. I've made 2 mistakes in the last week here. The last one being the wrong subject line for this webinar. My apologies. And then of course with Noel's webinar, the go-to meeting time was actually set 1 hour off incorrectly. So I'm sorry about that. A number of you guys actually missed his trading room. We do have it up actually online now under sharkindicators.com/webinars. So it's there to view. We just posted it yesterday. So if you missed it, you can check it out. But actually Noel is expecting a baby next week, so that's why we haven't scheduled something definitively yet for him. So we're waiting for him to just kind of clear his family stuff up, and then he can get back to work. So that's the only holdup right now. And but Noel had a great time, and those people that did view him, did get the privilege to see him, actually had a great time too, and he did quite good actually. He was up I think about almost $300 in 1 hour just training one contract of the CL and I believe it was the the 6E.
Also, if there's anybody new in here, I'd just like to offer again my Skype handle here. So it's Zach White SI, or Zach White SI is for Shark Indicators. So if you see me online with this Skype account, that means I'm available for questions or training, at any time. So you're welcome to add me as a contact. So that way, it's kind of one way for you to get instant support. So the other way is you can schedule a time with me on the website. If you go to the support pull down and go to contact us, you'll see there's a button on there to set up a one-on-one meeting, and that's used to schedule a 1 to 2 hour meeting, and we can do some one-on-one training, answer questions, whatever you need, whatever kind of support you need for BloodHound, then that's another way to contact us. And of course, there's always email. So my email is zackwhite@sharkindicators.com, and Jeremy's is jeremytang@sharkindicators.com. All right. So with that, I guess
Thanks a
we'll
lot,
sign
guys.
out.
Thanks a lot for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.